Can you tell if it's working on? Can you tell if it's working?
That's good.
Matt, can you tell if it's working?
Yeah, I'm on my way.
Okay.
I'm trying to work. Yep, we're good.
Can you hear? We're going to call tonight's meeting to order. This is a special meeting of January 15th. If we could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, everybody, for meeting early tonight. For the special meeting, do we have any considerations for the agenda?
We do not.
Okay. Then I need a motion to approve as submitted. No, I don't. I'm on the wrong one. It's all right. We still need to do the pledge. All right. So, discussion. We're here to talk tonight about the Proposition 2, which tied in votes, which is legally a fail for legal reasons, but because of the tie, I felt it's very important for us to come together and meet and discuss so we can see where we want to head from here and what are our options. That's perfect. In my estimation, that kind of a tie, I would like to put it back out and do that. I would like to discuss things. I'm not sure what everybody is sitting at the table, but that's what I'm looking to discuss tonight. So we can kind of start there and where we feel we think is appropriate.
Can I ask some questions? Matt? So there are some components that I want to understand a little bit better about Prop 2. It's so from what I understood before, the aid that we're getting from the state for Prop 2 is not tied to the maximum allowable amount because it's a new building, correct? So does that mean that it's not fixed to the fire 10 line that we would consider like we did for Prop 1?
So the maximum, the calculated cost allowance from SED is for renovations to the control inspection building. That's that 5-year cycle, that 5-year plan. Because it's because it was approved by SED as a new construction project, all the work associated with Prop 2 is not subject to that maximum cost allowance. So that would be treated differently than the work that is included in the scope of the project. So it's also financed slightly differently, and the aid is amortized a little differently. It's over 30 years instead of 15 years, so the cost is spread out more. The aid is allocated over 30 years instead of 15 years because it is considered new construction. And that was achieved. That was submitted to SED. The general plans and the general scope of the work was submitted to SED, and the project was approved. So we did get that pre-approval to do that standalone project. So yeah, that's correct. It's not.
In terms of getting the approval, if we put this out for review in the next 2 months or so, we wouldn't need to get reapproval for that. But if we waited, till next year, we would?
I don't know the answer to that specifically. I do know that if in the short term, if we were to put it up for a revote as is, we would not need any additional approval. don't know how long that initial approval is good for. So I don't know if the questions, if we do a vote as soon as possible versus if we did the same thing a year from now, 2 years from now, at what point that approval sort of lapses and we have to do that process.
What about the rate of the bonds? Does the project get more expensive if you wait?
Yes, I mean, just construction costs are going to go up, you know, because everything that's indicating that construction costs won't increase. And then in terms of borrowing, you know, one of the things that we're sort of bound to do is we borrow what we need when we need it. So that's all market related. So, you know, the funds that we would borrow, the bond that we would use specific to that project, it would be a timing of the work that we should do. So that would just be market related. So I'm not just sure what the rates would be.
Everything is more expensive.
It seems to be the trend. Yeah.
I have another quick question. If we don't put it back out, if Prop 2 does not proceed, the best garage is in bad shape. So
Yeah.
any sort of maintenance to that would come out of what funds?
Out of the general fund.
General.
And unless we had an emergency, if we had some sort of dire situation where there's an emergency, that would allow us, even the board, to declare such work as an emergency. We would be able to tap into our repair reserve and then replenish that over a number of years. I think we currently have about $180,000 in our repair reserve. So, you know, we talked about this, and the challenge is, you know, because we've been asked, well, what happens? What's it going to cost us? I don't know. I know that there will be a cost associated with maintaining the building to the point that it can remain and be up to code and pass inspections and be a safe structure on our property. I believe that cost would go up exponentially if the desire was to not only keep the building but also repair it to the extent that it could continue to be used, either as a bus garage or locking space instructions.
So currently, we have some issues this winter with the bus garage and what is going on with the usage of that space.
Yeah, so it's partially tied in with the incident that happened in the spring with the breach of that exterior wall. When the heating season began and we turned on the boilers to heat the bus garage as we normally do it, it's not capable to heat the building because of the wall being missing. That led to some problems with the boiler, with extensive amount of repairs necessary. So we shut that down. We made efforts to try to heat the building in pockets using electrical heat. We ran into problems with water. We're not able to heat it to a sufficient amount. So since then, we've sort of, the building is not occupied anymore. It is safe. It is structurally safe. But we worked with the village to shut the water off to the building, so the water is shut off. We're not heating it. Bus drivers are in and out of there on a daily basis to grab keys, that kind of stuff. Our ski club can still store their skis in the foyer, but it's not occupied regularly. So that'll remain that way through the end of the heating season, because we can better utilize it in the spring when the temperatures go up. So, and of course, we're not in a position where we're looking at completing any significant repairs to the building, as long as there's that potential that the project would move forward. So we're sort of in a holding pattern.
What about, is there any insurance money that would cover, or like, I can't remember what we discussed. I know you guys told me something
From the spring?
Yeah.
Yeah, from the incident that happened in the spring, there was an insurance claim. There's an active insurance claim regarding that.
And that would repair it before any work, if Prop 2 does go back on taxes. That still is not going to happen for a long time.
Well, it can, but the first focus was to repair, which has been done, was the structural damage, so the building could be occupied. And when the incident first happened, there was significant structural damage
Okay,
that the building was not safe to be in. So that part of it is done
that's good.
completely.
Okay.
Prop 2 is not just about bus storage. Prop 2 is about safety in a parking lot, lighting, paving, and more. I think that's a large part of what wasn't understood, unfortunately for some reason. But that's the part that isn't going to improve if we don't go back out to Prop 2. Right now, we leave this meeting, that parking lot will be pitch dark. When Ski Club comes back tonight at whatever godly hour they come back, it is not technically safe, really safe for them to be walking around finding their cars. And we could have a major incident in that parking lot, which is a major concern to me, which is also why I care to talk about it, right? Yes, we're going to get a new bunch of cars. That's great. Could we make some fixes to ours? Sure, right? Is it going to be what we need? No. But we're not going to get lights. We're not going to get a fixed parking lot. We're not going to get the safest places for our students to walk and to get around that parking lot. And I think that's a big concern.
And I think they're directly connected. The demolition of the bus garage would allow the opportunity to enhance safety and lighting, because it can then be moved and it opens up that lot and allows that whole landscape architect plan that we presented to happen, which is safety.
Yeah, and Michelle, while it's fresh in my mind, you made the comment, something along the lines that I don't think that was understood. We spent a lot of time looking through the exit survey results. And based on those that responded, and again, this is people that voted, the overwhelming majority said they did have a good understanding of what was at stake or what was proposed. So again, it's a very small sample, right? It's 75 or 80 people of the 260 that voted. There was a question, paraphrasing, how well did you understand what was being proposed? And the result, I don't think, the negative votes were cast because there was a lack of understanding of what was being done. Now, could a lack of understanding of what was being done led to a lower turnout? I'm not speculating about it.
I mean, if you look at how many people came to vote in this session, we had 260 people. That's inclusive of the absentee ballot.
20 absentees, so 240
So
in person. Yeah.
when we voted in May, there were 634 people. Our community has to do better for our students and for our school, and we have to show up. And there were people that said, well, I didn't know about it. You did. We sent you mail. We gave you the information. There were signs out in the middle of the village telling you that it was the day. Like, we can do what we can do to help remind people. But there were a lot of families that didn't come and vote, and your children come to the school. And that's tough to see. Is the time and energy and the information that we share and why we think it's important, or why I think it's important, right? It doesn't mean to speak for everybody, but I mean, that's a big difference. It concerns me that, we haven't had that low of a turnout for May vote since 2022. So where are the voters? Why aren't people coming? Worrisome. And I think people just feel like it's going to pass, or it'll be what it is. My vote doesn't matter. And those things aren't true. We need people here to have those votes.
Bill, I'm wondering if you could speak to how you think the building, the faculty and staff are feeling about it.
Interesting, because we have a number of faculty and staff that can vote, that were eligible. So, you know, I think from that standpoint, we could have done a better job internally getting people over the vote.
Especially like since it didn't pass. It's-
Well, yeah, I think there's,
They understand like this is a,
yeah,
and they would support this.
yeah, there's absolutely a feeling like we need to support this. Absolutely.
Or we had a
Yeah.
series of meetings internally, with both buildings, if you will, within the building. Faculty meetings, this was before, or after? Before the vote, both steering teams. And overwhelmingly supportive of both propositions and the coordination of the work. And, you know, even in the sense of Q&A and clarifying questions, I don't think there was anything to suggest any opposition from anybody internally with anything associated with the project, the scope of the work, the timing, and the fact. So,
Well, I feel the same with everybody that came to the coffees or the presentations that we held. Meeting with them. But there were people that had concerns. We brought them, they talked through them with you, and they left with a better understanding.
They did.
And I'm grateful that they came. I'm grateful that they asked those questions. I'm grateful that they will clarify. Whether they voted or not, I don't know. I didn't look at those things that way. And we'll never know which way they voted. But I'm glad that they came and got this that understanding. So, yeah.
I think there's support for the project. Why there was low voter turnout, I don't know. I don't have, you
Do you
know,
think it was the timing at all? That
Some-
you were a holiday?
you know, feedback, you know, we forgot.
Yeah.
You know, forgot that the vote was up.
Could we have done anything better internally to make, I mean, I know that it could have been done after school and things like that, but to have allowed anything differently throughout the day?
No, I mean, the polls were open from 12 to 8.
Very disappointing.
I think with regard to comparing to May numbers,
Right.
it's always a little tough because the May numbers, and there's a direct correlation with what happens in May with vote, not just here, but across the state. So if you look at our numbers, if you have a contested board election, you have more. That's just the way it is. Typically, if you have higher than normal tax levy increases, you're going to have more turnout. If you have significant changes or reductions in programs or staff, you're going to get more people that come. I do think this community is sort of voting numbness, voting complacency. You know, a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, but people have said to us since that they feel bad they didn't come because everything always usually passes.
Yeah, it's gonna pass.
They just thought it from the past. It was solid.
Yeah.
So I do think there's a bit of that historical complacency, if you will, that just people think that they don't need to come because the last, the budget votes always pass 4-1. Not that many people.
Well, I think this shows too that one vote does matter.
It
It does. It does.
So, where does everybody feel they would like to go with this? Do we want to move forward with another vote this calendar year, this school year? Or don't we? We're not voting on it, but it's like ideas of where it feels, so we can talk about next steps if we're all It's not a vote, it's just a conversation. What feelings?
Personally, would like it to go back to a revote as soon as possible, and part of the education be that, again, there's repairs that just have to be made. And I think people need to understand too, like, those repairs have to be made, and it's gonna come from the general fund, and it is going to impact other things that happen in this building, that we just had a really stressful budget year, we're about to have another stressful budget year. And we were, again, like, I don't wanna say this, but we were lucky last year. We're not going to be able to do that again. And it's gonna be even harder to sustain some of the things that we had here, when we have to take away from them for reasons such as this.
Like, on behalf of the administration, Bill and I mean, our stance is really unwavering. I mean, it's, you know, our feelings toward the need to get this done is unchanged. So, you know, we have an unwavering push to get this done in what we feel is the most effective and efficient use of the resources we have available, which is all the parameters and the timeline that was set forth in the years before. So that's kind of where we stand. So,
Yeah, the work, I mean, the work is there and the work needs to be done. By that proposition passing, could serve to protect instructional programming and staffing, because if that work doesn't get done, and it needs to be done out of the capital project, it's gonna have to come out of general fund. And that could have an impact on staffing and programming.
And it's worth repeating again what Michelle said, is like, it is really unsafe out there.
Yeah.
Let's all explore it when we can tonight. If you've ever left a game, you have kids that are driving and walking to that fucking back parking lot, and it's really huge.
Well, morning drop off, it's just, it's not a safe environment.
I understand that if there's one vote difference, so again, I'm saying, I'm just reiterating the fact that because that it allows you to have. So we're reading Stephen on the vote, yes, that's a negative in the state line, I understand that. If we were one off as a negative, we would not be back at this moment talking about it. We would be back maybe next year, maybe, right? The conversations we still continue, this work still has to happen. But I think the timing of the conversation is
I think the tie provides an opportunity to get more clarification from the community. Is it a yes or is it a no?
I want to focus more on one proposition instead of trying to focus on two different propositions. So do you have the
We have to
timeline?
speak, sorry, we have to speak up louder, it's not picking up yet.
I have information on a potential timeline that I can share.
But that's what I wanted to make sure that we wanted to have that.
That's information that
Yeah, I think it makes sense to me that we want a definitive answer from the community. I think people informally polled, which said that they were unsure, busy, or I don't want to blame anybody for not doing a busy time. And I think I remembered to vote on my way to the board meeting because I was coming to the board meeting that night. So I understand that someone was everything going on. I thought have it first there. So yeah, I think it makes sense to me that to get a more definitive answer.
I feel the same way, you know, it's really low turnout and I would like to see kind of more definitive yes or no. I mean, I don't want people to also feel like we're voting every 3 months, right? But, you know, I have to hope that just the timing of the vote, people were forgetting, like you were saying, and if people have more questions, are you gonna do the same thing with presenting possibly, or at least getting time for community feedback and such?
Sure.
Just to, make sure that everybody then has an opportunity, because, yeah, I would like to see it one way or the other, you know, if there's a really strong opinion.
Yeah, we would certainly be prepared to pivot in whatever direction we would need to ultimately achieve what we're trying to do. You know, we would lean on the exit polls that people completed. There's some things in there that were definitely eye-opening. Not, kind of one-offs. I don't think it was enough to really sway the results, but if those are sentiments that are felt in the greater community, that may have dissuaded somebody to vote or may persuade somebody to come vote a second time, then yeah, we need to do what we can to cover all those bases. So
But the proposition itself is not changing, because that's what's already been approved by us.
the scope of the project itself would,
Right.
the board would have to take action again to create the proposition, the resolution, create the proposition, which would be the same thing. So that's all part of it.
Okay,
The actual scope of it.
should not change.
And by not changing, we would not need to get any further approvals. So if we were going to change the scope of work, add to the scope of work, that may or may not require additional approval, additional environmental review, but because it's the same scope of work, the same project.
So a potential timeline, the first vote was December 16th.
Yeah, so
So
I
that
just,
puts us,
I wanna, before I
yeah,
get into this, I wanna thank Jody. Jody did a lot of hard work on this. And there's a lot of, dates looking back, dates moving forward, and counting and checking with multiple agencies and regulatory bodies. So I wanna thank Jody for the work, and I'll probably be looking out of the corner of my eye to make sure put for some head nods. But yes, by law, there has to be a 90-day waiting period before you can vote again. So the absolute earliest you could do a revote is 90 days from the original date. So that would put us roughly in the middle of March. There's a 45-day waiting period from the time that the board adopts the resolution for the referendum. So, and that's in order to allow us the adequate amount of time to make legally required legal notices and preparatory work leading up to the vote. So,
Yeah, are there certain days of the week or like that we have to do this, or could we piggyback it off? Like I know the musical is like mid-March. Could you piggyback it where a bunch
well,
of people
we're
are
not mid,
here?
we're not mid-March anymore. That's,
Okay,
that's,
so
puts
so
things in-
beyond that.
right.
Right.
So again, looking at what we currently have scheduled, the February board meeting was on February 12th. Hypothetically, if that was the meeting that a resolution was, you took action on a resolution for the referendum, 45 days from February 12th would be March 30th. So that is the earliest. If February 12th was the date that the resolution, there was action on a resolution, and that would be March 30th would be the first day we could have it. So if the desire was to have it before March 30th, that would require a special board meeting. But it would have to be beyond 90 days. So really, if you wanted it between March 16th and March 30th, you'd have that special board meeting prior to February 12th.
When is the 90 days?
The 45 days from the legal notice is March 30th. The legal notice is February 13th, so it would be the day after.
And 90 days from original vote is March 16th. So that kind of establishes the legal ramifications. And then any time after March 30th would be fine, but then you run into April 3rd, which is Monday, March 30th to Friday, April 3rd. That's sort of the week. April 3rd, Friday is Good Friday. The following week is our spring recess.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having the vote over our spring break would not be desirable. So if you didn't do it that week from March 30th to April 2nd, you'd now be
The 13th or later.
the week in March, April 13th. Which now you're getting into the 30 days prior to the May annual meeting. So it really gets busy really fast. fast. Once we get back and we can, absentee ballots and then, the board petitions and, that stuff all gets.
And I would not recommend tying it to the vote.
But we could have a special meeting to vote on this and be able to push the vote. I don't see that, just to have like a visual.
We don't need to, we could vote the 31st, the 1st, or the 2nd, and without having to do that.
So do you see any need to have it sooner than the 31st?
I think as far as the timing of the project, coordination of work with phase one, whether it's March 16th or March 30th, is not going to matter. I think at that point it becomes a question of, if our desire is to increase turnout, then it becomes just more of a strategic conversation of when do we think we're going to get the best read on our community? Because this is probably going to be it. Right? I mean, if it passes, obviously we're moving forward. But if it goes down again, then we're moving forward. So at that point, it probably, if the desire is to increase our turnout and get a better idea of what the community feels, then that's a strategic conversation. Then we think that's good for them.
So in my mind, I would like to consider doing this resolution in February at our board meeting, planning for the 31st to be the date. The Tuesday, the 30th is a Monday. Tuesdays, at least we could maybe notify people on Monday after a weekend, right? And remind them before the day out type of thing. So I feel like a Monday is our best choice. But so if we are going to do this, I think that we have conversation at our meeting here at 6 a little bit more about it. And then work starts in the building to prep us for February 12th. And then boots to the ground and hope the community makes a deciding decision, I guess is what I'm looking for, right? Like, do I want this to pass? Yes. But I would rather just know. The tie is what bothers me. Because I don't know where that lies.
But we don't have any action we need to take before the fall. For complete balance.
Only if you wanted the vote to be prior to March 30th.
So if we put it on the agenda for the 12th, that gives us a month to think about it.
And we would, Jody would, confirm that with our bond counsel and our legal team to make sure that what we just shared with you is entirely accurate. Because then we would have the resolution on the agenda for February 12th.
Mm-hmm.
We'd have to notify the Board of Elections. It's restart, it's restarted.
And that gives people who want to come voice the opinions on the February 12th, they get.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be, before we vote at the end of the year.
I mean, and technically, in our next meeting, it's done, right?
Yeah.
In an hour, half hour.
Right.
Yeah. And also gives time for emails and things if that's more people stopping into the district, if that's Matt's bill, finding us, that type of thing. So there does allow some time. Anything else on this topic? Our next meeting starts at 6, so we have 25 minutes. We're not trying to rush us through this by any means, but also we're at a spot that we feel is good on conversation, then we can end this meeting and start the next meeting if somebody says it.
I'm good.
Do you guys feel like you have an understanding of then I'm gonna need an adjournment for this meeting, and we'll start our next meeting at 6, because we advertised it for 6, we will not start before then. So I need an adjournment, if you give somebody a motion,
I'll move.
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned, and again, we'll start again at 6, so we're gonna turn off the video for now, and we'll turn it back on, it's a different link, it's for